Alright, the time has finally come for me to review this game. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Sigsang, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the best, worst Sonic game. You already know what it is, Sonic 06. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, more commonly referred to as Sonic 06, was a game created to commemorate 15 years of the Sonic franchise. It was touted by many to be the next big Sonic game, and would release on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Sonic 06 would be utilizing the increased graphics capabilities of both these consoles, which made the teasers for this game look amazing. That, along with the great CGI cutscenes that were shown off, it really got a lot of people excited for this game. However, this hype quickly dwindled upon release, and if you've ever heard of Sonic 06 and its backstory, you know this game is infamous for a number of reasons. The main reason being that the game was rushed. The development team didn't have time to polish the game due to time constraints. This led to the game being released in a really poor state. Not necessarily unplayable, but blatantly unfinished. For example, the game's frame rate would constantly dip, the lighting and textures looked off, there were tons of glitches. These are just a few things that made Sonic 06 incomplete. This led to this game getting horrible reviews across the board from game critics, some going as far as calling it the worst Sonic game ever. So, what do I think of this game? Well, the title gives you an idea of what my opinion is. The best, worst Sonic game. Oxymoron if you've ever seen one. I honestly don't think this is the worst Sonic game ever. Far from it actually. Back when Sonic 06 released, I didn't own a PS3 or 360. Also, at the time, I was a kid, and I had no idea about the negative stigma behind this game. I was blissfully ignorant. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but I idolized this game as a kid. An HD adventure type Sonic game, it seriously was the coolest thing I had ever seen. I remember downloading the promotional images and using them as backgrounds for my computer. I remember rewatching the trailer like a million times, and I remember seeing the game on store shelves. For some reason, I was able to convince my parents to buy me the game for the 360, before I even had the console. That's how obsessed I was with this game. It wasn't until a few years later as a teenager, I finally got an Xbox 360 and was able to play this game for the first time. This same copy that I got for the 360 is the same one I used to play through it today. But how has my opinion changed now that I'm an adult? Am I still looking at this game through the eyes of a young Sonic fan? That's what we're here to talk about in this video. As usual with my game reviews, please keep in mind that there will be spoilers in this video. Sonic 06 is a game that takes elements from the adventure style games, namely Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I've actually already done a review on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and you can click on the card on the screen to go check it out. As a fan of the adventure style games, this game was very appealing to me growing up. Not only were you able to play as Sonic, but there were also two other main playable characters, Shadow and Silver. Prior to this game, Shadow received his own self-titled game in 2005, which was pretty polarizing for obvious reasons. But disregarding that game, Shadow was still beloved by the Sonic community. It was great to see him have his own playable storyline in Sonic 06. The other playable character, Silver the Hedgehog, debuted in this game. In the teasers, it was made apparent that he would have psychokinesis abilities, allowing him to grab objects, projectiles, and even enemies. This skill set would make him very different from the other playable characters, and his design was pretty ballin' too. For the sake of structure, I'm going to focus on the main characters individually, first talking about their gameplay, then tying in their story. Up first, let's talk about how Sonic plays in this game. For the most part, I feel like as a character, Sonic controls pretty well in this game. He's not overly fast on his feet to the point he'll disappear off screen, which I feel like happened in some of the other 3D Sonic games. Playing as Sonic, you'll notice it's easy to take down enemies with the homing attack, the primary attack that Sonic uses. Some people may criticize this aspect of his gameplay because it can be very button mashy, but honestly, that's just kind of a mainstay of Sonic's moveset in almost all Sonic games, and I for one, enjoy it. As you progress through the game, Sonic is able to purchase different upgrades from the store and the hub world. Some of these abilities are built into his moveset, like the bounce bracelet. Other upgrades come in the form of gems, which can be toggled and used individually depending on the situation in real time. And since I kinda glanced over it, let's talk about the hub world. The hub world is the open world aspect of the game, where you can run around freely, talk to strangers, and access the different levels within the game. This area is named Soliana, which I'll talk about in more detail when we touch on the story of the game. It's a pretty diverse environment, and I want to say it has a European influence. There's a town, port, and even a forest area. A significant change up to say the hub world in Sonic Adventure 1. The level design in this game is also really diverse, and as Sonic and the rest of the cast, you'll be going through some interesting missions. The playstyle and overall level progression are what remind me the most of past adventure games, and it's a big part of why I enjoy playing through this game. With Sonic, you're mostly just speeding through levels, taking out enemies, and collecting rings, which I think is pretty fun. At the end of each level, you'll be granted a letter rank based on your performance, a feature that has appeared in prior games. There are also certain instances in the game where you'll be able to play as Sonic's friends for small periods of time. And to be honest, these portions of the game are some of the least engaging in my opinion. Tails plays okay, but the fact that his only attack is to throw dummy rings at enemies is kind of weak. And Knuckles, he just straight up feels unfinished. I don't like playing as him at all in this game.
You have to like do. Oh.
Sonic also has something called super speed stages in this game, which might be the most infamous part of Sonic's gameplay. There are these separate instances and stages where Sonic needs to speed up and begins to run at an absurdly high speed. When Sonic is in this state, he is borderline uncontrollable to the player. A slight flick of the control stick and Sonic could end up running off the stage and dying. I specifically got really frustrated with the super speed stage in Wave Ocean because I kept hitting the loop at the end at the wrong angle. There are also boss battles in Sonic's story, but to me, none of them are really memorable, besides from the final boss battle where Sonic has to face Eggman's Egg Wyvern. Oh wait, no, there is another one, but memorable for all the wrong reasons.
It's no use! No!
Even though Sonic's gameplay isn't at its best in this game, I still have a fun time playing as Sonic in this game. And now that we've gone over some of his gameplay, let's talk about his storyline. We can first start off with the opening cutscene, which honestly looks like it could be from a Final Fantasy game. That's a compliment, by the way. This opening cutscene is by far my favorite CGI cutscene in any Sonic game, and I think it does a good job introducing the story for this game. The cutscene focuses on Princess Elise, the current sovereign of Soliana, and the Festival of the Sun. At this event, the people of Soliana are celebrating and honoring their sun god, Solaris. Briefly, Elise spaces out and has a vision seeing the city engulfed in flames, being destroyed by what appears to be a giant fire monster. She quickly snaps out of it and continues the ceremony. The festival is then interrupted by an attack from Eggman. He's seeking to capture Elise and her Chaos Emerald to obtain the secret of the Flames of Disaster. Luckily, Sonic arrives to save the day and takes out most of Eggman's robots. He picks up and carries Elise and starts running with her away from the festival. As the two escape, the scene ends with a glimpse of Silver the Hedgehog watching over and mentioning that he has found the Iblis trigger. Once this awesome cutscene ends, the game cuts to a really poor non-CGI cutscene that shows Elise being kidnapped by Eggman. Before she enters the egg carrier, she's able to toss Sonic her Chaos Emerald so it can stay out of the hands of Eggman. Through the game, Sonic is able to get Elise back from Eggman multiple times, but Eggman always seems to recapture her. Kind of a weird back and forth. Also, Sonic never really seems to question why Eggman keeps capturing Elise. He kinda just tunnel visions on getting her back. Part of the reason for this is because Sonic and Elise are able to build a strong bond throughout the game. Elise really appreciates that Sonic cares for her, but she is mostly intrigued by Sonic's spontaneous lifestyle. As the sovereign of Soliana, Elise hasn't really been able to live a normal life, and Sonic tries his best to make sure that when they spend time together, Elise is happy, even if these stints are short-lived. I didn't mention it earlier, but Sonic and Elise actually have collaborative stages together. They're not as exciting as Sonic's solo stages, but I think the concept is pretty neat. Sonic carries Elise through levels while being able to use her energy to create a shield. This shield can only be up for a limited amount of time, so it makes the player strategize when and when not to use it. Luckily, in these stages, Sonic is still able to use his homing attack, so Elise doesn't hinder Sonic's mobility too much. Going back to the story, I think what baffles me the most about Sonic's arc is how much it strays away from the real plot of the game. which can be both a good and a bad thing. Good in the sense that it makes the player want to play as the other characters, but bad because it seems like Sonic's story is just about him being selfish and wanting to save Elise. Even though Sonic gets transported to the future by Eggman and sees the world in a post-apocalyptic state, he doesn't seem to care and only wants to get back to the present so they can prevent Elise from being involved in a deadly crash with Eggman, something Tails discovers while in the future. And as for how the game integrates Silver and Shadow in Sonic's storyline, Sonic interacts with both, but in very different ways. At first, Silver is like a bounty hunter trying to take down Sonic, because he believes Sonic will destroy the future? Obviously, Sonic is able to shake him off multiple times, and even is saved in one instance by Amy. Later in the story, Silver has a change of heart and tells Sonic that he has to protect the princess, so they decide to join forces. Unfortunately, they fail to prevent the inevitable crash that Tails mentioned in the future, so Sonic and Silver create a portal with Chaos Control to try and save Elise once more. The concept of using Chaos Control to time travel was introduced earlier in the story when Sonic was teleported into the future by Eggman. There, Sonic works together with Shadow and Rouge to get back to the present by collecting Chaos Emeralds. And other than Shadow saving Sonic from Silver later on, the two don't interact too much in Sonic's storyline. In the end, Sonic is able to save Elise from Eggman's egg carrier before it crashes. They betray the sequence with a CGI cutscene that I think is pretty neat. Together, they rush through the crumbling debris of the ship and end up in an open field that overlooks the ocean. They take a moment to relax and laugh at their adventure together, and are finally at peace now that Eggman has been defeated. Now that we've covered Sonic's gameplay and story, let's move on to our next playable character, Silver. As I mentioned earlier in the video, this game introduces his character for the first time in the series, and his playstyle is definitely something else. For starters, Silver's main way of attacking is through his psychokinesis abilities. He doesn't have a traditional homing attack like Sonic or Shadow, so most of your attacks will be ranged based. The game readily provides throwable objects and enemy encounters, so you never have to worry if a box or projectiles will be near you or not. You can also stun enemies from up close and then pick them up once they're stunned. This enables you to throw enemies at other enemies and can result in some pretty sweet combo points. Silver also has the ability to levitate for brief periods of time, allowing him to hover over small gaps in levels. Keep in mind that all of Silver's abilities use up energy from his action gauge, but this gauge replenishes quite frequently. If the gauge is completely depleted, Silver becomes a sitting duck and can't really do anything. One of Silver's biggest downside is his movement speed. He easily is the slowest of the three main characters, but once you get used to his playstyle and abilities, you'll notice it doesn't really hinder his gameplay. Like in Sonic's story, you'll also be able to briefly play as other characters in Silver's levels, the main two being Blaze and Amy. Blaze is a lot more mobile than Silver and uses close combat attacks to take down enemies. The problem is she can sometimes spin out of control and has trouble locking on to certain enemies. Amy, on the other hand, is about as slow as Silver and only is able to attack with her hammer at super close distance. She can also turn invisible for brief periods of time, but I never really used this ability. Boss battles as Silver I found to be mostly enjoyable, in particular, the ones versus Sonic and Shadow. It's really fun to be on the other side of these fights, since you don't have to worry about the enemy locking you into an infinite loop. I overall enjoyed the different playstyles Silver's character provided in this game. It's a nice switch up from the faster paced Sonic and Shadow storylines. Now, let's dive into Silver's story in Sonic 06. He is introduced as a hedgehog from the future, a future that has been devastated by the flames of disaster, Iblis. In this world, it seems like his only real friend is Blaze the Cat, a character who originally appeared in the Nintendo DS game, Sonic Rush. Side note, I love Blaze's character design and hope they implement her character in another mainline Sonic game soon. In their timeline, they have taken it upon themselves to fight off Iblis as he makes appearances in their world, but they can never completely destroy Iblis. Conveniently, after a battle against Iblis, a mysterious hedgehog makes an appearance before the two, offering insight on the flames of disaster. This hedgehog looks very similar to Shadow, but has blue and purple highlights in place of Shadow's red and gold. His name is Mephiles, and he tells Silver and Blaze that they must travel back in time to stop the Iblis trigger, the person who caused the destruction of the world. He teleports the two back in time so they can defeat the Iblis trigger. Sonic the Hedgehog. When teleported, Silver and Blaze become separated, but while in the past, Silver bumps into Amy Rose, who conveniently agrees to help him find who he is looking for. Amy obviously doesn't know that Silver is trying to kill her crush, yet they are both looking for Sonic at the same time. Once they finally find him and Silver confronts Sonic, Amy intervenes and ditches Silver after he explains that he must destroy Sonic. Soon after, Silver and Blaze finally meet up and continue the hunt for Sonic together. When they eventually encounter Sonic again, Silver is interrupted by Shadow this time, who decides to fight Silver so Sonic can escape. At the end of the battle, the two accidentally open a portal in time by using Chaos Control simultaneously. Shadow then explains to Silver that he is being manipulated by Mephiles and offers to head back into the past so they can see what happened 10 years ago. In the past, Shadow and Silver are able to see what went wrong during the Solaris project, a project that was led by the Duke of Soliana, aka Elise's dad. It is through this project that the Duke and his partners were trying to harness the power of the god Solaris, but this experiment becomes a failure when the power becomes unstable. The project explodes, and as a result, Solaris splits into two entities, Iblis and Mephiles. Shadow and Silver split up so they can catch the two beings, but in Silver's story, we only see the capture of Iblis. Silver is able to restrain Iblis with his psychokinesis, but cannot stop the flame completely. The Duke then appears with Elise in his arms and explains that his family has been entrusted with the flame. He proceeds to conduct a ritual to seal away Iblis within Elise via Chaos Emerald. This ritual uses up the last of the Duke's strength, and he asks Silver to take Elise to a safe place as he passes away. In his last words, he explains that Elise must not cry no matter what happens, because this will cause the flames to become unleashed. Silver and Shadow meet up outside the facility and confirm that both entities have been sealed away, Mephiles within the Scepter of Darkness and Iblis within Elise. Before they return to the future, Silver leaves his Chaos Emerald with Elise as a lucky charm. Once he returns, he explains to Blaze that he was wrong about Sonic, and they decide to chase down Eggman as a result. In his chase for Eggman, he confronts Sonic again and tells him that his objective has changed, and he now needs to rescue the princess. I already mentioned in Sonic's story that they initially failed to save the princess together, so Sonic had to head back into the past. As for Silver, he heads back into his future so they can stop Iblis in their world. He confronts Iblis alongside Blaze, and this becomes Silver's final boss battle. At the end of the fight, Silver tries to seal away Iblis within himself with the Chaos Emeralds, but it is unsuccessful. Blaze steps in and continues the process, which works due to her soul being alit with flames. She then asks Silver to use Chaos Control so that he can seal away Blaze and Iblis into a different dimension, which he refuses to do. Once the process is completed, Blaze's body begins to dissipate into the sky. As she fades away, she sincerely wishes Silver good luck. Suddenly, the sky begins to become clear of clouds, and rays of sunshine beam down upon the world. It signals the end of the flames of disaster, but Silver loses Blaze as a result. Last up, time to talk about Shadow, who arguably has the best story arc in the game. But before we jump into his storyline, I want to talk about his gameplay. While he plays more similar to Sonic than Silver, Shadow's gameplay is still distinct from the other two characters. He isn't as fast as Sonic, but he's definitely a lot more mobile than Silver. He also has the traditional homing attack, but after colliding with an enemy, you have the option to button mash to perform an in-air combo. This attack is amplified by upgrading Shadow's Chaos Boost levels, which can be upgraded a total of 3 times. As Shadow deals damage to enemies, his action gauge starts to fill up. Once completely full, you can activate his Chaos Boost, which gives a red aura to Shadow. In this mode, Shadow is able to attack enemies in succession, and I think deal more damage? I was a bit confused while using this ability because it seemed like it could be hit or miss, most likely an aspect of the game that was left unpolished. I was specifically excited to get his level 3 Chaos Boost because that level allows him to use Chaos Blast, but even that was a bit jank. Shadow also has the ability to use Chaos Spear, which shoots lightning at enemies. You have to make sure your aim is correct though, because it can be pretty easy to miss enemies with this attack. The Chaos Spear temporarily stuns the enemy, which is convenient to use in situations where you are surrounded. It also doesn't eat away at your action gauge, so it's fun to use limitlessly. If you played Shadow's self-titled game, you know vehicles were heavily implemented in the game. Similarly, 06 has Shadow using vehicles as well. This includes the buggy, hovercraft, motorcycle, and glider. The glider seems to be the vehicle you are using the most as Shadow, since the sections with this vehicle are built into the game. None of the vehicles handle particularly well, but I wasn't really expecting racing sim handling from a Sonic game. Like Sonic and Silver, you will have moments in levels where you have to play as other characters, this being the other members of Team Dark, Rouge and Omega. Rouge has a gliding ability similar to Knuckles, and she can also throw small bombs at enemies. Omega kinda just shoots things and blows stuff up, but he can also hover in the air briefly after jumping. Alright, let's get into Shadow's story now. In all honesty, Shadow kinda gets dragged into this mess because of Rouge. He's sent on a mission to save her from Eggman's base, and after they get out, Rouge appears to have a very ominous looking artifact. This happens to be the Scepter of Darkness that we saw in Silver's story. They have to meet up with Gun, an organization like the military, to give them the scepter, so they travel through Kingdom Valley, but are then met by Eggman. The three get into a scuffle, which leads to the scepter falling to the ground and unleashing its energy. From the energy, a dark aura appears that eventually takes form as Mephiles. Mephiles appears to be upset with Shadow, but Shadow is confused since he has never met Mephiles before. As punishment, Mephiles then creates a portal to transport both Rouge and Shadow to the future. In the future, Shadow and Rouge discover they have been transported hundreds of years ahead of their normal timeline, and realize that Mephiles possesses a power similar to Shadow's chaos control. Conveniently, they bump into Sonic and friends and decide to work together so they can gather 2 Chaos Emeralds to get back to the present. Towards the end of their journey in the future, Shadow has to defeat a version of Iblis to contain the second Chaos Emerald. Once he defeats Iblis, Shadow uses Chaos Control along with Sonic's to create a portal to the present. However, before going through the portal, Shadow spots Mephiles and decides to hunt him down. Meanwhile, Rouge meets up with E123 Omega, a robot friend of both her and Shadow. She gives Omega her Chaos Emerald to deliver to Shadow. In the future, Shadow is able to talk to Mephiles about what has happened to the world. Mephiles explains that after Iblis' destruction, humanity turned on Shadow and imprisoned him. Mephiles suggests that they team up, but Shadow refuses and doesn't want any part of Mephiles' plan. This disagreement then leads to a battle between the two. Midway through the battle, Omega makes a surprise appearance and assists Shadow in the battle against Mephiles. After defeating him, Mephiles manages to escape through a portal that he creates, and Shadow and Omega jump through in pursuit. They end up back in the present, but Mephiles is nowhere to be found. After reconnecting with Rouge, Shadow tells her and Omega that he's going to find Eggman to ask him what's going on. Once Shadow finds Eggman, he asks who Mephiles is and why Eggman is trying to capture him. Eggman doesn't give a direct answer and instead tells Shadow that he must go back 10 years to see what happened with the Solaris project. Soon after, Shadow encounters Silver, and this is when they go back into the past together using Chaos Control. We already talked about the Solaris project in Silver's story, but in Shadow's arc, you have to hunt down Mephiles and seal him into the Scepter of Darkness. It is because of this sequence in the past that Mephiles was upset with Shadow when they first met. Once Shadow returns to the present, he explains to Rouge that he knows how to seal away Mephiles, but they first need to find out how to create a new Scepter of Darkness. Once they gather the materials for the new scepter, they continue their mission to seal away Mephiles. During the final portion of Shadow's story, he explains to Team Dark that they must stop Mephiles before he finds a Chaos Emerald, or else he will use it to fuse back with Iblis and return to their original form as one, Solaris. By the time they find Mephiles in the ancient ruins, it is already too late as Mephiles has already found the Chaos Emerald. Mephiles makes one last offer to Shadow to join him by his side, but Shadow once again refuses and calls out his wicked ways. The team make quick work of Mephiles and his army of clones, but as Shadow tries to seal away Mephiles into the new Scepter of Darkness, the ritual backfires, and Mephiles remains free. Luckily, the three are able to escape Mephiles and blast through the mob of clones Mephiles has summoned. This is how Shadow's story ends, but just like Sonic Adventure 2, the game isn't over yet. Once you have beat all 3 character stories, a new arc becomes available titled Last Episode. This final entry in the game contains some pretty crazy stuff, so let's jump right into it. So, Sonic f***ing dies. Remember how earlier in the video the Duke told Elise not to cry or else Iblis would be released? Well, this sequence kind of triggers that event. Mephiles finally decides to set in motion his master plan by murdering Sonic in front of Elise. I know, the story went 0 to 100 real quick. As Iblis becomes unleashed, Mephiles takes this opportunity to fuse with them, and they are able to become one once again. When the fusion to become Solaris is complete, the characters of the game become trapped within a time-space rift together. Sonic and Elise are also transported into this rift, and the characters take a moment to process Sonic's passing. This rift has formed because Solaris is in the process of deleting both time and space, which inherently is the end of the world. Eggman explains that defeating Solaris is fruitless at this point, but the protagonists believe there has to be a solution to this mess. Together, they hypothesize that if they were to bring Sonic back to life with the 7 Chaos Emeralds, they may have a chance of defeating Solaris. They quickly get to work and split up for one final mission to collect all of the Chaos Emeralds. In this final mission, you are able to play as pretty much all the characters in separate sections. Some of these sections are super tedious, and I almost felt like rage quitting during Silver's portion specifically. There are these tears in time that randomly appear through the mission that severely affect your character's mobility. Each tear has a gravitational pull, and if sucked in, your character will lose a life. As you can imagine, characters with poor mobility like Silver suffer the most in this mission. Once you finally collect all the Chaos Emeralds, a cutscene plays showing Sonic being brought back to life by Elise. And if you haven't seen it before, well boy, you're in for a treat. Seriously though, this scene gets blown way out of proportion by some people, and I myself don't read into it in a sus way. When Sonic regains consciousness, he appears as Super Sonic and thanks Elise for her help. He then seeks out both Silver and Shadow and begins to share his energy with them. This transforms all 3 into their super modes, and they take off into the sky to begin the final boss battle against Solaris. In this boss battle, you take turns playing as each character and switch between the 3 as your ring counter gets close to 0. Sonic attacks by dashing at Solaris. Shadow shoots what looks like amped up Chaos Spears, and Silver uses his traditional telekinesis abilities to deflect debris thrown by Solaris. Once Solaris is defeated, a second phase begins, which shows us a slightly different form of Solaris. Phase 2 is my favorite because the music theme changes, and let me tell you, this song slaps. We'll talk more about the music in the game shortly, but once Solaris is defeated, another pocket in time opens, but in this instance, only Sonic and Elise are here. In this moment in time, the 2 are able to encounter the flame that was Solaris before the experiment. Elise grabs the flame and tells Sonic that they can blow it out, which would end Solaris' existence and save the world from future suffering. However, Elise hesitates because if she does blow out the flame, then everything they have experienced together will have never happened. Sonic reassures Elise and simply tells her to just smile. I'm not gonna lie, this part got me in the feels a bit, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. Elise decides to blow out the flame after all, which fades the screen to black. The game then fast forwards to the Festival of the Sun, the same festival that the game started with. This time, there's no disruptions, except for Sonic causing a bit of commotion by running through the crowds. Elise senses Sonic's presence, and although she doesn't know Sonic in this new timeline, she feels like someone familiar was calling out to her. This whole ending sequence is really melancholic, but I think even for this game being such a roller coaster, the writers did a great job tying together the conclusion of the story. And with that, now we can talk about some of the nuances in Sonic 06. I mentioned it at the beginning of this video, and yes, this game can be buggy at times. Actually, a lot of the time, and is for sure unpolished. I often like to say that you don't play this game, but the game plays you. there are many instances where you don't know if the game will respond properly to what you as a player are trying to do. It's not so much an issue with the controller input, but rather the environment and physics engine in Sonic 06. Knowing where to land and where not to land, knowing when to time a jump, knowing when to properly attack an enemy, these statements seem basic on the surface, but take my experiences in Wave Ocean and even Silver's boss battles for example. In Wave Ocean, if you approach a ramp at a wrong angle, you can instantly lose a life, and when Sonic first faces Silver, you could get permalocked by Silver's telekinesis. This isn't because I'm playing the game wrong, it's because the game wasn't polished properly, and if you've never played Sonic 06, you'd probably get incredibly frustrated. And I think that's where some of the biggest stigma for Sonic 06 stems from. You can't just be an ordinary gamer and enjoy this game. You have to know about the faults in the game and how to work around them to progress in certain levels. To me, that can be marked as a major downside of Sonic 06. Why should a player have to know about the broken parts of a game before playing it? Shouldn't the game just work? Yeah, it should, but unfortunately, Sonic 06 doesn't just work. It makes you put in unnecessary effort to unironically enjoy the game. This is the kind of effort that players that aren't Sonic fans are unwilling to put in, hence the plethora of negative reviews. And I'm sure this game pushed away fans of the series as well. If you couldn't already tell, I personally enjoy this game, but I'm not going to go out of my way to antagonize others that don't. It's not a perfect game. I'll always stay true and acknowledge its faults and overall glitchiness. But at the end of the day, I find joy in playing it, even now as an adult. I decide to look past its imperfections, even if that's an odd stance to take. But that's enough talk about the lack of polish in 06. Did y'all know Akon was in this game? Some of my favorite parts to work on in these game reviews is talking about the music in the games. Sonic 06, like many other Sonic titles, has a great OST. Personally, I think it has one of the most diverse music selections of any Sonic game, hence me referencing Akon earlier. And that's no joke. Look up the song titled Sweet Dream from this game's soundtrack, and you'll see he's credited in the song. Although not my favorite song from the game, I thought it'd be a fun factoid to point out. I'm actually very happy that I was able to do this playthrough with headphones on, because it allowed me to really appreciate the songs within the levels of the game. Tracks like Crisis City and Kingdom Valley are for sure standouts to me, but even looking at the ending credit music for each character, you'll find some unique gems. All Hail Shadow, a song that originally appeared in Shadow's self-titled game, appears once again in 06, but this time covered by the legends themselves, Crush 40. Silver's theme is also a banger, which is titled Dreams of an Absolution, an electronic track that fits his futuristic origins. If you have the chance, I highly recommend looking up the remixed version featuring Jun Senoi. As for Sonic's theme, his song is definitely my favorite of the three main characters. The song is named His World. I'm just gonna say it up front, His World is my favorite Sonic series song of all time. The version in the E3 Sonic 06 trailer resonated so much with me when I first heard it, and I love pretty much all iterations of this song. And to be frank, there's like 50 iterations of His World. The original version, Crush 40's version, Zebrahead's version, the version in Solaris Phase 2, the version in Smash Bros. You see what I'm saying? Some might say it was a bit overkill, but I for one love that there's so many to listen to. You can tell Tomoyo Itani, the game's sound director, really believed in this song's versatility. When I beat this game this time around, I was met with a great feeling of sadness. Not particularly because of the story, but because it makes me really sad to see Sega was unable to polish this game and release what could have been the best Sonic game to date. That's really what they were aiming for with this game, and it all just came crashing down. I know a lot of Sonic fans appreciate this game, regardless of its imperfections, but to the rest of the gaming community, it will always be looked at with scrutiny and be pointed to when trying to make a joke. And even though it's easy to tune out the negativity as a fan of this game, Sega obviously has taken this criticism to heart, and has essentially abandoned this gameplay formula. Almost every Sonic game released in Sonic 06 has been a boost game, and you'll hear many Sonic fans say Sonic Team has been playing it safe with their gameplay formula, and I 100% agree. I believe Sonic Team should take risks with their next game, and try to do something different from what they've been doing for the past 10 plus years. I've played a few of the Sonic Boost games here and there, but to me, they don't really keep me entertained like the old adventure style games. Maybe that's a problem that stems from me being stuck in nostalgia, but I do plan on giving games like Unleashed and Colors chances in the future game reviews, so stay tuned. I'm an adventure fan at heart, so they'll always be my favorite games inherently, but I still keep an eye out for news on future Sonic games. Well, this turned out to be the longest video I've ever made. Makes sense since there was a lot I wanted to talk about. Sonic 06 I think will always remain an enigma in the Sonic universe, and although it would be really neat to see Sega remaster this game, I highly doubt that would ever happen. However, there are fans in the community who have taken it upon themselves to polish this game, and a quick YouTube or Google search will net you some pretty interesting finds. In conclusion, was Sonic 06 really that bad? Is it the worst Sonic game ever made? No, that's why Sonic Boom exists. Real talk though, even now playing it 15 years after its original release, I can personally say I had fun with it. The gameplay and the story to me were enjoyable, despite how flawed they can sometimes be. To me, Sonic 06 is my Sonic Adventure 3. It carries over many elements that were introduced in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. And I think that's why I like this game so much. While it doesn't have the word adventure in its title, it literally is an adventure for Sonic and his friends. And it's one I'll always remember. If you made it to the end of this video, comment down below.
It's no use!
And please drop a like as well. I worked super hard on this one, and it's been a project that I've had in the making for well over a month now. If you aren't familiar with me and my channel, I like to make game reviews and other gaming related content. If you're into that, make sure to subscribe because I'll be making more videos like this in the near future. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SigSang for updates. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you tune into the next one and have a great rest of your day. Peace.